Hey guys, and welcome to another deep dive Evercade completion review. This is where I need to complete an Evercade game from start to finish. Doesn't matter how many load states I use, and it certainly doesn't matter how many save states, just as long as I can complete the game from start to finish before I do this review. And what game are we looking at today? Well, today we are looking at Biomechanical Toy from the Gaelco collection, Purple Cart number 3. Let's bring out the toy box. So have you ever wondered what would happen if your childhood toy box exploded, not with joy, but with bullets, lasers, and an army of homicidal wind-up clowns? Well, welcome to Biomechanical Toy, an absolutely wild arcade run and gun that feels like Toy Story got hijacked by a mad scientist and reprogrammed with a flamethrower. This isn't your average side-scroller, this is high-octane, pixel-blasting thrill ride through a nightmarish toyland where every jump feels like life or death, and every enemy looks like it was designed by a sugar-fueled maniac who got locked inside a toy factory overnight. You play as Inguz, a toy cowboy with nerves of steel and a gun that somehow never runs out of bullets, on a mission to recover a stolen magical toy box and stop the evil genius, Scrubby. What follows is pure arcade mayhem, waves of mechanical monstrosities, screen-filled bosses, and platforming chaos so intense I nearly gave my controller a stress fracture. From the moment I booted it up, I was hooked. The music is punchy, the visuals are colourful and slightly disturbing in the best possible way, and the action never really lets up. 1 second you're dodging a missile-riding panda, and the next you'll be swarmed by robot spiders and hopping between exploding train cars. It's challenging, weirdly beautiful, and absolutely overflowing with personality. So grab your blaster, tighten your boots, and prepare to shoot your way through the craziest toy store nightmare ever made. This is Biomechanical Toy. And trust me, this is one game where the phrase batteries not included definitely doesn't apply. As always, we'll be looking at the story, the sound, and the gameplay, and a little later on in this episode, we'll be letting you know my Evercade stats on how long it took me to complete Biomechanical Toy. But before we do all that, let's look at some interesting facts behind the game and its developers. Biomechanical Toy was developed by Zeus Software, a Spanish game studio founded in the late 1980s. Zeus wasn't a big household name internationally, but within Spain and the European retro gaming scene, they were known for publishing creative boundaries. They cut their teeth on 8-bit microcomputers, developing games like Beastal Warrior and Risky Woods. The latter was even picked up by Electronic Arts and released for the Amiga and Genesis Mega Drive, a rare crossover success for a Spanish dev team back in the day. The arcade release of Biomechanical Toy was published by Gaelco, another Spanish powerhouse that really knew how to make a splash in arcades. Gaelco was behind high-octane titles like World Rally, Alligator Hunt, and the cult favourite Thunder Hoop. Their games stood out thanks to their distinct Euro-anime-inspired art, bright visuals, and often strange but fun concepts. And Biomechanical Toy might just be one of their most bizarre and visually unforgettable creations. In the mid-90s, the arcade scene was overflowing with gritty realism. You had blood-soaked brawlers like Mortal Kombat breaking jaws and causing parental outrage. You had dark sci-fi shooters like Area 51 filled with shadowy alien conspiracies. The aesthetic was often black, aggressive, and soaked in shades of greys and browns. Realism was the trend. The more serious and the more better. And then came along Biomechanical Toy, kicking down the arcade door like a cartoon cannonball filled with glitter and dynamite. Instead of gory fatalities and grizzled marines, it gave us wind-up bears, bouncing drums with legs, and evil clowns with rocket launchers. It felt like the game was actively trolling the rest of the arcade world, a chaotic, sugar-fueled fever dream in a time where everyone else was trying to be gritty and cool. Biomechanical Toy didn't just reject realism, it mocked it with pure color exaggeration animation and ridiculous enemy designs that made it feel more like a Saturday morning cartoon gone rogue than a traditional shooter. It was loud, it was silly, it was totally over the top, and it embraced every bit of it. While other games were going for brooding atmosphere, this one was throwing toy planes and explosive spring-loaded fists at your face. It was a high-energy punch in the gut to the serious tones of the era, and honestly, it felt refreshing, like arcade anarchy wrapped in a toy box. From a visual standpoint, Biomechanical Toy also was a total feast, and that's because it was practically a playground for animators. While most arcade developers of the time were prioritizing performance and control systems, Zeus and Gayalco gave their artists center stage. Characters bounce, squash, stretch, and pop with ridiculous energy, and enemies move like they're straight out of Looney Tunes. The death animations feel like they were designed to make you laugh and panic at the same time, and the entire game pulses with hand-drawn personality, from its surreal bosses to its chaotic background details. According to interviewers and industry whispers, Gayalco's animators were given rare creative freedom, and you can really feel it in every single frame. It's not just a good game, it's a moving, shooting, side-scrolling cartoon gone off the rails. One of the most striking things about Biomechanical Toy is its instantly recognizable theme: toys. You are a toy! It's a universally understood concept. No matter where you grew up, toys were a part of your world. Gayalco and Zeus Software clearly knew this when they leaned into the Toybox aesthetic. But rather than delivering a soft and fuzzy platformer full of teddy bears and rainbows, they twisted the concept into something brilliantly unhinged. The Toybox becomes a battleground. Heroes are reimagined as action figures with attitude, and the villains deranged, wind-up clowns, killer rocking horses, and sentient punching gloves. It's playtime with consequences. This wasn't just a game for kids, it was a nostalgia bomb wired to explode with bullets and lasers, catching the attention of teens and adults who grew up with toys but were now ready to blow them up in a glorious pixelated mayhem. But all that visual flair wasn't just for show, and under the hood, Biomechanical Toy was built to challenge the hardware, and Gayalco was showing it off. Running on their very own custom arcade boards, the game flexed its tech muscles with features like layered parallax scrolling, huge animated sprites, and screen-filling bosses, with smooth transitions between chaos and calm. At a time when many arcade titles were starting to shift toward pre-rendered or 3D graphics, Gayalco doubled down on this beautifully crisp 2D visuals and pushed their machines to the limit. It was essentially their way of saying, we don't need polygons to blow your mind. And yet, despite all this brilliance, Biomechanical Toy remained a hidden treasure for years. It was released in arcades mainly across Europe with very limited distribution everywhere else. Making things worse, Gayalco's proprietary arcade boards used encrypted ROMs, meaning emulation was nearly impossible for a very long time. So unless you stumbled across a cabinet in Spain or some quirky UK seaside arcade, chances are you'd never heard of this game. The lack of exposure only fueled its mystery, with people talking about that one weird toy shooter and some vaguely remembered playing as a kid. It became a myth, a whispered legend, and now, thanks to the Gayalco Arcade 1 collection on the Evercade, that legend is finally playable again legally. Accessibility, and with that recognition it always deserved. Let's take a look at the story. So long ago, in a world powered by imagination and childhood dreams, yes, really, there existed a magical pendulum that gave life to toys. We're talking actual, living, walking, punching toys. Think Toy Story, but with fewer hugs and a lot more ammunition. This pendulum was guarded by the wise and wonderful toy maker, who was basically served as Santa Claus if he'd majored in robotics and black magic. But peace never lasts too long in video game worlds, and enter the moustache-twirling villain of the hour, Scrubby. Scrubby is a mad scientist with a fashion sense stuck somewhere between evil clown and third-grade science teacher, and he's decided he's had enough of Joy's toys and probably puppies too. So what does this Scrubby do? He steals the magic pendulum, as one does, and uses it to twist innocent toys into psychotic murder machines. Teddy bears with machine guns, evil rocking horses, cannons shaped like building blocks, you name it, he corrupted it. The world plunges into chaos, children's cry, playrooms become war zones, the bouncy castle, that's now a minefield, and that dollhouse full of traps, it's basically Chucky meets Mega Man. But hope remains. From the ruins of the toy would rise one hero, Inguz. Who is Inguz, you may ask? Nobody really knows. He might be a cowboy action figure, he might be a plastic soldier, he might be He-Man's cousin, twice removed. What matters is that he's the only toy left who isn't trying to lazy your face off. And he's got a blaster, a head full of righteous rage, and absolutely no time for evil scientists messing with magic. So Inguz sets off on the most insane rescue mission in arcade history. Across deadly toy factories, cursed clockwork castles, and giant wind-up war zones, he fights his way through Scrubby's demented army of mechanical playthings, all in a quest to reclaim the pendulum and restore peace to Toyland. And he does it in style, dodging missiles, blasting clown bots, and collecting power-ups like it's his full-time job. There's no dramatic monologue, no tearful goodbye, and definitely no explanation of how physics work in this toy universe. Just pure pedal to the metal toy mayhem with an all-or-nothing mission. Stop Scrubby, save the toys, and look awesome doing it. Let's take a look at the sound. One of the absolute standout features of Biomechanical Toy is its truly unique and energetic sound design, which feels like it was tailor-made to perfectly complement the game's wild toy-themed chaos. The soundtrack is a vibrant blend of upbeat chiptune melodies layered with quirky, cartoonish sound effects that don't just accompany with the action, they bring the entire toy world to life. It's a soundscape that manages to be both nostalgic, evoking classic arcade vibes, and refreshingly original, standing apart from the usual bombastic or grim soundtracks of that era. Behind the infectious audio experiences was Joan Sanamati, a talented Spanish composer who worked on several of Galco's arcade projects during the 90s. Samadi's approach was crystal clear. The music needed to match the game's frantic pace and surreal visual style while keeping your adrenaline pumping, but without ever taking itself too seriously. And the result? A score that sounds like a mischievous toy orchestra gone completely haywire. It's playful, punchy, and packed with so many catchy hooks that you'll find yourself humming the tunes long after you put your joystick down. It's the kind of soundtrack that feels like it was winking at you through every explosion and jump. But why does it sound this way? And the answer lies in the game's cartoon-inspired, slightly off-kilter world. While many mid-90s arcade shooters were loaded with dark, brooding soundtrack that aimed for gritty realism, Biomechanical Toy deliberately swung the other way. It embraced the bright, whimsical music that makes every jump, shot, and explosion feels like part of an over-the-top animated adventure, like you've been dropped inside a madcap Saturday morning cartoon gone wild. The sound effects are just as quirky, with mechanical whirls, zany boings, and goofy clangs filling the air, deepening the immersion and reinforcing the feeling that you're inside of a toy box that's completely lost its mind. Another key factor shaping the sound on this game was the limitation of Galco's custom arcade hardware. While the system was powerful in terms of visuals, its audio capabilities were somewhat modest, offering only limited sound channels and sample quality. This constraint pushed Joan Sanamati to get creative, and instead of lush orchestrations, he focused on composing simple yet incredibly memorable melodies and crafting sound effects that were instantly recognizable. This clever design ensured that even during the most chaotic moments when dozens of enemies and effects might be on screen, the sound stayed clear, punchy, and engaging, never muddy or overwhelming. In short, the sound of Biomechanical Toy isn't just background noise, it's an essential part to the game's unique charm and personality. Imagine a wild toy band crashing a rock concert inside your arcade cabinet. Loud, fun, and utterly impossible to ignore, and it's one of those rare cases where the audio perfectly captures the spirit of the gameplay, helping turn this already bizarre toy shooter into an unforgettable arcade experience. Let's take a look at the gameplay. When it comes to gameplay, Biomechanical Toy is nothing short of a chaotic, adrenaline-fueled joyride through a toy box gone rogue. Picture this, you're barreling through levels packed with colourful, bizarre enemies, everything from crazed, wind-up bears to rocket-launching clowns, and you have to blast, dodge, and outwit your way through wave after wave of mechanical mayhem. It's like someone took every childhood nightmare involving toys coming to life and turned it into a pixel-perfect arcade shoot-'em-up. The game's core is classic side-scrolling run-and-gun action, but with enough twists and turns to keep you on your toes the entire way. You're not just shooting, you're constantly juggling between rapid-fire blasts, well-timed jumps, and frantic dodges. And believe me, the screen never stays quiet for too long. Enemies swarm from all sides, projectiles fly faster than a speeding yo-yo, and bosses show up bigger, louder, and more ridiculous than you have ever experienced. One of the things that makes Biomechanical Toy stand up is its level variety and design. Each stage feels like a new playground of danger and surprises, from factories filled with spinning gears and conveyor belts to haunted toy castles. The game keeps shaking things up so you never get too comfortable. The backgrounds are alive with animation and detail, making each level feel like a vivid, dangerous diorama, a living toy diorama, if you will. Power-ups are another highlight. You get weapon upgrades, speed boosts, and even invincibility icons that turn you into an unstoppable toy warrior for a short burst of time. Grabbing these at the right moment is often the difference between surviving a chaotic boss battle or getting sent back to the start faster than a jack-in-the-box popping out of its trap. And speaking of the bosses, Biomechanical Toy doesn't disappoint at all. Each one is a spectacle, giant toy robots with spinning saw blades, giant jack-in-the-boxes with mechanical grins, and mechanical puppets that look like they belong in a horror show. They're tricky, they're creative, and they demand your full attention and reflexes. Be prepared for some serious pattern memorization and a healthy dose of "oh no, not again" moments. What really brings the gameplay together is the perfect balance of challenge and fun. The game is tough, no question about that, but it expects you to learn the enemy patterns, time your shots, and react quickly, but it never feels unfamiliar. The controls are tight and responsive, so when you pull off a perfectly timed jump or dodge, it's incredibly satisfying. And that pace, it's relentless, making every second feel like a pulse-pounding race against time. In short, Biomechanical Toy offers a gameplay experience that's as wild and unpredictable as the toys it features. It's a thrilling mix of frantic shooting, clever platforming, and boss battles that keep you coming back for more, even when the chaos has you screaming at your screen. If you love your fast-paced arcade actions with a twisted toy-themed twist to them, then this game delivers in spades. Now, I paid $36.94 for the Galco Arcade 1 collection, but I can't say that we spent that just for the one game because this has 6 games on it. So for the purpose of this review, we need to say that I spent $6.15. Now, to get my $10 per hour ratio, what that equates to is I'll need to play and complete Biomechanical Toy in more than 37 minutes. And I can successfully say I achieved this completing the game in 46 minutes, meaning that it comes to $8.05 per hour, which is a bargain in my books. I had a play count of 1, I didn't use any load counts, and a save count of 2. And now it's time for my review on Biomechanical Toy. It's playtime. For the story, I'd give Biomechanical Toy a 6 out of 10, which is a pretty respectable from an arcade shooter where most games barely bother to explain why you're blowing stuff up in the first place. Unlike those games that just throw you into a pixelated brawl with nothing but a title screen and a vague save the world attitude, Biomechanical Toy actually tries to give you a reason for all of the chaos, and that, my friend, is a refreshing change. So here's the setup. There's a magical pendulum. Yep, you heard me, magic. That bring toys to life, turning a regular toy box into a living, breathing, sometimes deadly world. But then, because every story needs a villain with bad hair and worse plans, some evil scientist steals this pendulum and corrupts it. Suddenly, your cuddly teddy bears turn into a trigger-happy nightmare and your friendly Jack-in-the-Box becomes a maniacal, mechanical menace. Now, instead of playtime, it's wartime and you're the only toy brave enough or crazy enough to fight back. That's a clear motivation, right? You're not just mindlessly shooting everything that moves, you're on a mission to reclaim the magic and save the innocent toys from becoming pixelated projectile fodder. It's like if Toy Story met Die Hard in an arcade cabinet, and honestly, who doesn't want to see that crossover? And let's talk about the toy theme itself. There's just something inherently charming about fighting your way through a world where your enemies are wind-up bears, deranged toy clowns, and explosive building blocks. It taps into this sweet spot of childhood nostalgia mixed with ridiculous cartoon violence. Kind of like your favorite childhood toys suddenly turn into an army of tiny pixelated badasses. The story leans into this vibe with a wild, twisted sense of fun, making it way more memorable and engaging than your average shoot aliens because reasons plot. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not exactly Hamlet or The Godfather. The writing doesn't deep dive into character development or plot twists worthy of an Oscar or anything like that, but it doesn't need to. For a game this chaotic and colourful, the story works perfectly. It sets the stage, gives you a reason to care, and then lets you loose in a madcap world of mechanical mayhem. In other words, it's the perfect story for a game where teddy bears shoot rockets and Jack-in-the-Boxes are your sworn enemies. So yeah, a 6 out of 10 feels about right. It's good enough to keep you hooked and adds a sprinkle of narrative sugar to an otherwise explosive Toybox brawl. And honestly, sometimes that's exactly what you want. So for the sound, I'd give Biomechanical Toy a solid 7 out of 10, and honestly, that's a pretty good score for a mid-90s arcade shooter where the star of the show is a bunch of psychotic toys. The audio is surprisingly fun, playful, and packed with personality. Everything you want when you're blasting your way through a world where teddy bears have turned into tiny rocket-launching maniacs. Let's start with our soundtrack. Now imagine a toy band made up of squeaky robots, banging drums, and an over-caffeinated xylophone all jamming together in perfect chaos. That's basically what you get here. The chiptune melodies are upbeat, catchy, and ridiculously addictive. I swear the moment that the opening theme kicked in, it wormed its way into my brain like a sugar-fueled earworm, and stayed in there way longer than I'd like to admit. It's the kind of music that makes you want to bob your head, tap your foot, and maybe even dance around your room like no one's watching. And then there's the sound effects, a real highlight. The mechanical whirls sound like toys are gearing up for battle, or maybe a robot disco party, while the boings, clangs, and pops give the whole thing a slapstick cartoon feel. It's like the sound designers were having a bit of a laugh, throwing in every quirky noise they could find in their toy chest. Rockets whoosh, springs snap, and explosions pop, all with a playful tone that makes the chaos feel less threatening and more like a wild, noisy adventure. Of course, it's not all perfect. The Gyarko arcade hardware had some audio limitations, so when the screen gets packed with enemies and effects, the sounds get a little muddy, kind of like trying to hear your phone ring during a rock concert, and we all know how that goes. Plus, some sound effects repeat quite a bit, which after a few dozen deaths might either make you chuckle or want to throw your controller across the room. Spoiler, I mostly chuckled. Still, the sound design does a fantastic job of matching the game's quirky, off-the-wall vibe. It never tries to be too serious or cinematic, instead just embraces the silliness, the colourful chaos that Biomechanical Toy is all about. And the result is a soundscape that's as memorable as the gameplay itself, fun, lively, and perfectly in tune with the Toybox madness you're diving into. So yeah, a 7 out of 10 feels about right. It's like having a mischievous toy band playing a non-stop concert inside your arcade machine, and honestly, that's exactly what this game needs. I'd give the gameplay of Biomechanical Toy a solid 6 out of 10, and honestly, that feels about right. This game moves fast, like blink and you miss it kind of fast. It's a whirlwind of shooting, dodging, and frantic button mashing that had me gripping my controller like I was trying to hold onto a runaway toy car on a loop-to-loop. The speed is intense, making every second a high-stakes scramble to stay alive while blasting through hordes of bizarre mechanical toys gone bonkers. Now let's talk the difficulty. This game doesn't mess around, it's tough. Like I just lost to a wind-up bear with a rocket launcher, kinda tough. Enemies swarm from every direction and the bosses, well, let's just say they're basically the Toybox's version of Godzilla. Huge, relentless, and armed with every gadget to make Inspector Gadget pretty damn jealous. It's definitely kept me on my toes and my sanity just a little stretched. There were moments where I felt like I was auditioning for a spot in the Toybox Olympics, precision, speed, and reflexes all pushed to the absolute max. So what really won me over though was how original this game felt. Compared to everything I'd played before, Biomechanical Toy was like discovering a secret toy chest in the back of the arcade, full of weird, wild surprises and stuff I'd just never seen before. Instead of the usual space shooters or gritty war games, here you are fighting crazy toys in a hyper-animated playground. It's quirky, it's unexpected, and honestly it made me smile every time I got blasted to bits by a deranged Jack-in-the-Box. Sure, this could get a little frustrating when the screen flooded with enemies or when I lost a life to some sneaky mechanical teddy bear, but that's part of this charm. It's like the game dares you to get better and to keep coming back and mastering its madness. It's not perfect, some of the level designs felt a little bit repetitive and the speed sometimes made it hard to really strategize, but for the originality and sheer fun chaos, it scores big. So a 6 out of 10 for gameplay feels fair for me. It's fast, frantic, frustrating at times, but undeniably one of the most creative and entertaining shooters I've ever tackled. If you're into high-speed arcade madness with a Toybox twist, this one is one worth the wild ride. Just don't blame me if you get your thumbs pretty worked out. Overall, I give Biomechanical Toy a 6 out of 10. This is a game that oozes personality, bursts with color, and embraces its wacky toy-themed chaos with open arms and a spring-loaded boxing glove. The enjoyment factor here is very high, not because it's polished to perfection, but because it's such a weird and wild ride. You're not just running and gunning through another generic sci-fi corridor or bland war zone. No, not at all. Here you're blasting rocket-powered teddy bears bouncing across stages that look like they were dreamed up by a hyperactive toy designer and taking down massive bosses that look like rejected action figures from the world's most dangerous toy aisle. What makes it enjoyable is its unpredictability, and every level feels like a new surprise, a new wave of what? What am I even looking at? Moments, and it's all that kind of game where you feel you're laughing 1 minute and getting totally demolished the next, and then immediately hitting continue because it's just too much to stop. The balance of challenge and charm keeps things fresh even when it's testing your reflexes and, of course, testing your patience. The sound and music only add to the fun, cheerful, chaotic tunes keeping your energy up, and the cartoon-style sound effect turn each explosion or jump into something just a little more ridiculous. It creates an atmosphere that says, yeah, we know this is nuts, and yeah, we're leaning into it. Now, sure, there are areas where the game shows its age. One being, it's really tough. Sometimes unfairly tough, and it doesn't exactly offer much in the way of depth or modern refinement. But that's part of the appeal. Biomechanical Toy doesn't care about being trendy, it cares about being fun, fast, and full of flair. So yeah, a 6 out of 10. It's because it's the rare type of game that's fun despite its flaws. It's a toy-themed fever dream that you can't help but enjoy. If you're into retro games with bold style, non-stop action, and just the right amount of what the heck am I even playing, then this one is a must-try. Thank you so much for watching another Deep Dive Evercade completion review. Please remember to give me a like, subscribe, or comment down below. And if you're feeling like the love is there, hit that share button and get the word out, because I'm all about the love and support, and I want to hear your thoughts on this game also. Until next time, stay odd, stay awesome, and we'll see you on another episode of the Odd Socks next week. See you guys.